Hi everyone, welcome to the class. In this class, we're going to discuss about the concept of functional and non-functional requirements from the chapter of software requirements, which is the third chapter in software engineering subject according to JNTH syllabus. In other syllabus, I don't know what chapter it is. So in this video, we'll discuss about functional requirements, and in the next video, we are going to discuss about non-functional requirements. So software system requirements can be classified into two types. One is functional and second one is non-functional. So functional requirements. The term functional requirements of a system refers to what the system can do. I mean system ఏమేం చేయగలుగుతుందో దాన్ని functional requirements అంటాం. So the functionality of a system depends largely on why it was made, who uses it, and the organization that develops it. So it describes in detail what the system can do. So they describe the specific actions and capabilities of a system based on its purpose and users and the organization behind its development. And as mentioned, how well a system works depends a lot on why it was made. To understand this better, let us consider an example, an online pizza ordering system. So మనకి ఇది అర్థం కావాలంటే we'll take an example which is online pizza ordering system. In this case, system needs to fulfill three functional requirements. Three functional requirements ఇవి అనమాట. So first one is user should be able to handle browse easily. అంటే the system should be very easy to navigate, and the user should be able to choose the type of pizza they want correctly. అంటే యూజర్స్కి అంటే ద యూజర్ షుడ్ బీ ఏబుల్ టు చూస్ వాట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ పిజ్జా, అంటే వాళ్ళకి ఏ పిజ్జా కావాలో వాళ్ళు చూస్ చేసుకునేలా ఉండాలి. అండ్ ద థర్డ్ వన్ ఈస్ ఆఫ్టర్ కంప్లీటింగ్ ద ఆర్డర్ ద యూజర్ షుడ్ రిసీవ్ ద యూనిక్ ఐడి. సో ఆర్డర్ కంప్లీట్ అయిన తర్వాత యూజర్ షుడ్ రిసీవ్ సమ్ యూనిక్ ఐడి అనమాట. These functional requirements can also fall under user requirement specification. Here are some more detailed elaborations. So certainly here are here's a more detailed breakdown based on the user requirement specification. So the first one is user can choose what toppings they want on their pizza. And the system should allow the users to customize their pizza by selecting some specific ingredients or toppings they want on the pizza. And users can enter the credit card information securely. It should enable users to input their credit card information securely, and users can input their delivery address including house number, street or road. It means the system should accept various forms of delivery address, like including house number, street names and road numbers, to accommodate user preferences. So now when developers don't include all these necessary details, the software might have unexpected errors, so which can be frustrating for users. Suppose ఇప్పుడు డెవలపర్స్ ఇవన్నీ ఇంక్లూడ్ చేయలేకపోతే అప్పుడు కొన్ని అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్స్ వస్తాయి, అండ్ దానివల్ల యూజర్స్ ఫ్రస్ట్రేట్ అవుతారు కదా. సపోజ్ ఇప్పుడు నేను ఏదైనా ఆన్లైన్ యాప్ నుంచి ఆర్డర్ చేయాలనుకుంటే ఆ యాప్ నాకు ఏదో ఇలా లైక్ అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్స్ వస్తే నాకు పిచ్చిలేస్తుంది కదా. I'll be frustrated and I'll be not using that app. So this happens when developers skip important things they don't want to deal with. ఇది ఎప్పుడైతుందంటే ఒకవేళ డెవలపర్స్కి లైక్ కొన్ని ఇంపార్టెంట్ థింగ్స్ మర్చిపోయినప్పుడు ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఫేస్ అవుతుంది అనమాట. సో వెన్ లిస్టింగ్ what the software needs to do, it's important to include everything and make sure it all fixed together. So it's very important that to include everything and make sure it fits together. Hence, while supplying the functional requirements, one has to remember two aspects: consistency and completeness. So మెయిన్గా ఫంక్షనల్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్లో టూ ఆస్పెక్ట్స్ మనం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలన్నమాట. దట్ ఈస్ కన్సిస్టెన్సీ అండ్ కంప్లీట్నెస్. కన్సిస్టెన్సీ అండ్ కంప్లీట్నెస్ బోత్ లుక్ సేమ్ బట్ దే ఆర్ యాక్చువల్లీ డిఫరెంట్. Completeness means having all the necessary requirements for a software application, while consistency ensures that these requirements don't contradict each other. I know it's very tough to have both completeness and consistency, especially in large and complex systems. So mistakes and different customers Different customer needs can make this even harder. So this can cause problems right up until the final stages of development when delivering the product to users. So this is all non-functional. So these are the requirements that are not directly concerned with the specific function delivered by the system. These are constants on the services or functions offered by the system. So these non-functional requirements and the requirements which aren't about what the system does specifically, but rather the constants on its services or functions as a whole. So they include things like reliability and performance. So basically non-functional requirements are more important than functional ones. ఎందుకంటే see if ఒకవేళ ఆ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ వాళ్ళు like if they're not meet if they didn't meet the requirements, then users might not use the system. For example, if the system is slow, users may avoid it. Also, when dealing with non-functional requirements, remember they affect both the end product and its development process. So these are the various reasons for non-functional requirements. So in non-functional requirements we have three types. One is product requirements, organizational requirements, and external requirements. So product requirements, in this case we supply the behavioral aspects of the products. Here what we do is this pen is not working. In this case we basically supply the behavioral aspects of the product, which includes usability requirements, portability requirements, and speed of a system execution and memory requirements, etc. And in external requirements, what it happens is external requirements are needs from outside the system and its development process. So in the examples include here are interoperability capabilities, legislative requirements, and ethical requirements. And in organizational requirements, they come from the organization where the system is developed and customer expectations. So here the examples are delivery needs and standards followed in the process, etc. Concept of user requirements. So both functional and non-functional requirements are described briefly and without any technical details in the user requirements. So in this what happens is both functional and non-functional requirements aspects user requirements basically describe both functional and non-functional aspects without technical details for user understanding. The details should only provide the external behavior aspects of the system, hence it should not include its implementation details which may frustrate the non-technical users. So they focus on external behavior and they also avoid complex implementation details like diagrams, forms, and tables which help to clarify. And however, natural language may lead to certain problems such as requirement amalgamation, lack of clarity, and requirement conclusion. Let us discuss about this in detail now. Requirement amalgamation. So this problem usually arises when we club several requirements and specify it as one. అంటే ఇప్పుడు సపోజ్ మనం మల్టిపుల్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ని క్లబ్ చేసాం అనమాట. అంటే లైక్ వీ కంబైన్ మల్టిపుల్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ అండ్ దాన్ని మనం ఒకటే ఎంటిటీ లాగా ట్రీట్ చేస్తాం. దాట్ మీన్స్ వీ కంబైన్ మల్టిపుల్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ అండ్ వీ ట్రీట్ దమ్ యాజ్ అ సింగిల్ ఎంటిటీ. Next is lack of clarity. Lack of clarity arises when specification become lengthy and they fail to provide the necessary information. అంటే లైక్ ఇప్పుడు మన స్పెసిఫికేషన్ ఒకవేళ లెంతీ when it turns out to be lengthy and the data may not include the required information. So next is requirements conclusion. This problem usually arises when we do not specify the system's functional requirements, design information, and overall system goals clearly. అంటే మనం ఎప్పుడైతే లైక్ ఫంక్షనల్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ అవన్నీ క్లియర్గా ఇవ్వలేకపోతే అప్పుడు ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్ అరైజ్ అవుతుంది. అండ్ వైల్ అలైనింగ్ యూజర్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్, రిమెంబర్ దట్ ప్రిసైజ్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ ఈస్ క్రూషియల్ అలాంగ్ ద డీటెయిల్ సిస్టమ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్. In this class, we're going to discuss about the concept of system requirements. So, as SR and system requirements, don't write SR in your exams, just write system requirements. So, system requirements are often termed to be the initial step in the system designing process. They prescribe the implementation details of the user requirements, since they are certain extent related to them, but at the same time, they are more detailed than them. So system requirements are nothing but these are the initial step in system designing and detailing how user requirements will be implemented. So they are more detailed than the user requirements, and they should be complete and consistent. So we sometimes need to include design details in the requirements. Here's why. Making sure the system can work with existing ones means looking at how it is designed. uh, we need to make sure that the system can work with existing one. That means examining its design. And the second point is checking if the system meets certain standards involves considering things like its architecture. Verifying if the system meets certain standards involves considering elements such as its architecture. And following are the set of notations which can be used for the requirements specification. So these are some set of notations which can be useful for requirement specification anamata. So the first one is graphical notation. So this means using graphical objects with text placed in suitable spots for representations. Basically, this refers to a refers to a representation that includes specific graphical objects along with the text paste. Next is structural natural language. So the structural natural language, this notation facilitates the writers to utilize certain predefined formats as well as the templates while expressing a scenario in the form of requirement. And the next is mathematical specification. Mathematical specification requires writers to use mathematical aspects like state machines or sets. State machines or sets. This reduces the need for extensive information exchange between developers and customers regarding system functionality. And the next is design description language. So in design description language, what it will happen is writers will be use some certain programming language to describe requirements in terms of operational model, as long as the model reflects only the abstract notation of the requirement. And this approach is actually rarely used nowadays. So this is all about system requirements. The concept of interface specification. So any system that works because all of its software system is in working condition, that means existing system which is installed and implemented works when all the software system operates. సో ఇప్పుడు సపోజ్ ఏదైనా సిస్టమ్ ఆర్ ఏదైనా పనిచేస్తుంది అనుకోండి. ఎందుకు పనిచేస్తుంది? దాని లోపల పార్ట్స్ దాని సిస్టమ్ అంతా మంచిగా ఆపరేట్ చేస్తేనే అది పనిచేసేది. అది వాళ్ళు అదే అంటున్నారు అనమాట. అండ్ ఆల్సో టు మేక్ ద న్యూ సిస్టమ్ వర్క్ విత్ ద ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ వన్, they need to interact, and which is called as interface. Suppose ఇప్పుడు ఒక ఆల్రెడీ ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ దానికంటే న్యూ సిస్టమ్ కూడా పనిచేయాలంటే అప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి? దే నీడ్ టు ఇంటరాక్ట్. సో దిస్ ఇంటరాక్షన్ వాట్ ఎవర్ ద ఇంటరాక్షన్ ఈజ్ నోన్ యాజ్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్ అనమాట. సో ద స్పెసిఫికేషన్ ఫర్ దిస్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్ మస్ట్ బీ ఇంక్లూడెడ్ ఇన్ ద రిక్వైర్మెంట్ డాక్యుమెంట్. సో ద స్పెసిఫికేషన్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ రిలేటెడ్ టు ద interfaces must be installed in the requirements documents anamata. And the existing system interfaces need precise specification, and implementing the new system is easier with these interfaces. And there are three types of interfaces that contribute to the operations of both system. In that, first one is procedural interfaces. So procedural interface ante they're like doorways that let programs use services from the existing ones. And also these services are accessed through specific procedures where we call application programming interfaces. And the next is data structures. So data structure organizes the transaction records and are represented graphically. And here what it happens is they move between subsystem, and also they can be automatically converted into programming descriptions in languages like C, C++, Java, etc. And also in this makes them an interface specification. Next, representation of data. So representing data through diagrams with annotations explaining the functions of each group of bits is the best way to go. This is the useful. This is the use. This is the useful for existing subsystem and serves as a common interface among embedded and real-time system. So this is all about interface specification. Everyone, welcome to the class. In this class, we're going to discuss about the concept of software requirement, the software requirements document. So the software requirements document, often referred as software requirement specification (SRS), which directs what the software engineer team must develop. It comprises of precise form of customer requirements and a brief specifications of system requirements. So the software requirements document, it is also known as SRS. Basically ఇక్కడ ఇది ఏం చేస్తుంది, it outlines what software system needs to create, and also it includes clear customer requirements and brief system specifications, etc. Since the software requirements cover both customer and system needs, this can be done in 3 ways. So the 3 ways are ఈ 3 ways anamata. The first one is both customer as well as system requirement specification can be integrated to form one document. So these both customer and system requirement specifications can be combined together into one document. And the customer requirement specification can be provided in the initial phase or at the introduction of the document, followed by the detailed system requirement specification. అంటే కస్టమర్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ ఉంది కదా, అది మనం ఇనిషియల్ స్టేట్లోనే ఇచ్చేయచ్చు అనమాట, which can be followed by detailed system requirement specification. And if the application is complex and large, you can put the system requirements in a separate document. In each software requirement document, you list out the stakeholders involved in the development. సో ఇప్పుడు ఒకవేళ మన అప్లికేషన్ కాంప్లెక్స్ అండ్ లైక్ లార్జ్ ఉందంటే, అప్పుడు సిస్టమ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ స్పెసిఫికేషన్ ఏం చేస్తుంది అంటే, దిస్ సిస్టమ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ స్పెసిఫికేషన్స్ can be included separately either in a different section or document. So following is a list of stakeholders and illustration related. You can't see, no? Okay. Following is a list of stakeholders and illustration related to their involvement in the developers. Dantlo first one is system, customer or end user. So system, customer or end user means these are the people these are the people the software is made for. అంటే వీళ్ళ కోసమే సాఫ్ట్వేర్ మనం చేసినాం అనమాట. దే క్యాన్ షేర్ దేర్ నీడ్స్ అట్ ద బిగినింగ్ అండ్ రివ్యూ ద సాఫ్ట్వేర్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ డాక్యుమెంట్ ఆఫ్టర్వర్డ్ టు ఎన్ష్యూర్ it meets the requirements or not. System managers. So system managers use the document to figure out how much it will cost to develop the software, and they'll also plan how the software document will happen. Next is development team or engineers. So they decide which tasks need to be completed or everything they'll be deciding on. Next is testers. So in testers, they usually decide on the task to be accomplished. And the next is maintenance engineers. So for them, document helps them to understand and summarize how different parts of the system relate, and also the level of detail in the document depends on the type of system and also process being used. Next is introduction to SRS document. First we need to write the introduction. It can include purpose of the requirements document, scope of the product, references, etc. Next is general description. It can include product perspective, product functions, etc. Next is appendices, and the fourth one is specific requirements. It can include functional, non-functional, logical, design, etc. Next is index, which includes all these types: prefix, introduction, glossary, etc. and all this. So this is all about the concept of feasibility studies. So this phase forms the initial step in the requirements engineering process. We start with feasibility study process whenever we possess information related to following aspects like business requirements, the extent to which current system is capable of satisfying these business requirements, a brief description of the system. So this phase makes the initial step and a first step in the requirements engineering process. And we begin with a feasibility study whenever we have information related to the aspects like business requirements and how well the current system can meet this business requirements. And the third one is a brief description of the system. And whenever we develop feasibility study reports, it should contain data related to following aspects. Does the current report address the organization's business needs for developing the system? That means does the current report meets the అంటే like మన current report organization meetsని like చేస్తుందా లేదా అని. And are the technologies, costs and schedule implemented by the organization suitable for the current project? అంటే like can the organization's technology, costs and schedule support the current project or not? Can the system be implemented with other defined systems or not? And one more point about feasibility studies. So once the feasibility study is done, we'll have the documents stating if the current system can meet specific business requirements or not. Based on this, we decide whether to continue, halt or improve the current system. So feasibility study report should include these data anamata. So this is all about feasible studies. I'm going to discuss about the concept of requirements, elicitation and analysis. So whenever we are done with the feasibility study stage of the requirements engineering process, the next stage is requirements, elicitation and analysis process. So feasibility study the next process ఏంటంటే అది ఇదే అనమాట. So in this phase, the developer will be consulting various customers and he discusses the issues such as hardware requirements, details about the resulting application and system performance, etc. సో ఇక్కడ లైక్ డెవలపర్ ఏం చేస్తాడంటే వేరియస్ లైక్ డిఫరెంట్ టైప్స్ ఆఫ్ కస్టమర్స్ అండ్ వాళ్ళని కలిసి డిస్కషన్స్ పెడతారు అనమాట బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ద ఇష్యూస్ లైక్ హార్డ్వేర్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ అండ్ డీటెయిల్స్ అబౌట్ రిజల్టింగ్ అప్లికేషన్ ఎక్సెట్రా. So here we will be having 4 steps anamata. This is first, second, third and fourth. In the first one, that is requirement discovery. This is the first steps in requirement elicitation and analysis process. So developers usually talk to different stakeholders to understand their views on domain and other requirements. This helps in preparing requirements documentation. ఇక్కడ ఏమవుతుందంటే లైక్ డెవలపర్స్ డిఫరెంట్ వాళ్ళతోని డిఫరెంట్ స్టేక్ హోల్డర్స్ వాళ్ళతో మాట్లాడి దే విల్ బీ ఫైండింగ్ అవుట్ ద వ్యూస్ ఆన్ డొమైన్ అండ్ అదర్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ ఈజ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ క్లాసిఫికేషన్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్. So once all the requirements are gathered and documented, they need to be organized neatly. Related requirements are grouped together or often forming clusters. సో ఇప్పుడు రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ అన్నీ గ్యాదర్ అయిన తర్వాత వాటిని నీట్గా ఆర్గనైజ్ చేయాలన్నమాట. అండ్ ఆల్సో రిలేటెడ్ ఉన్న రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ షుడ్ బీ గ్రూప్డ్ టుగెదర్. నెక్స్ట్ ఈస్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ ప్రియారిటైజేషన్ అండ్ నెగోసియేషన్. సో ఇక్కడ ఏమవుతుందంటే ఇప్పుడు డెవలపర్స్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ అన్నీ గ్యాదర్ చేస్తారు కదా లైక్ మనం స్టేక్ హోల్డర్స్ అండ్ అందరినీ గ్యాదర్ చేసినప్పుడు డిఫరెంట్ కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్స్ అరైజ్ అవుతాయి అనమాట. సో టు రీజాల్వ్ దోస్ కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్స్ డెవలపర్స్ ప్రియారిటైజ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ అండ్ నెగోషియేట్ సొల్యూషన్స్. నెక్స్ట్ ఈజ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ డాక్యుమెంటేషన్స్. సో ఎప్పుడైతే లైక్ వన్స్ వి ఫినిష్ డిస్కవరింగ్ అండ్ అనాలిసింగ్ once we finish discovering and analyzing, classifying and organizing the requirements, we need to put the suitable documents before moving on the next phase of the development. So this is all about requirement elicitation of requirements validation. So requirements validation is concerned with showing that the requirements actually define the system that customer wants. So requirement validation is important because errors in the requirement document can lead to an extensive rework costs when they are discovered during development or after the system is in service. సో ఇక్కడ మెయిన్లీ ఏమవుతుందంటే లైక్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ వాలిడేషన్ అంటే ఏంటంటే ఇట్ ఎన్షోర్స్ అనమాట. అంటే లైక్ ఇప్పుడు కస్టమర్ కొన్ని రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ ఇస్తారు కదా అవి మ్యాచ్ అయినా లేవా అని దే విల్ మేక్ షూర్. లైక్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ వాలిడేషన్ ఎన్షోర్ చేస్తుంది అనమాట. అంటే ద రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ మ్యాచ్ అయినాయా లేదా అని. అండ్ ఫైండింగ్ ఎర్రర్స్ అండ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ ఈజ్ వెరీ లైక్ వైటల్ బికాస్ ఫిక్సింగ్ దెమ్ డ్యూరింగ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ ఆర్ ఆఫ్టర్ డిప్లాయ్మెంట్ ఈజ్ మోర్ ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్ దెన్ అడ్రసింగ్ డిజైన్ ఆర్ కోడింగ్ ఇష్యూస్. ఇప్పుడు ఏంటంటే మనం ఎర్రర్స్ డ్యూరింగ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ అప్పుడే మనం ఫిక్స్ చేసేయాలన్నమాట. ఎందుకంటే వన్స్ డిప్లాయ్మెంట్ అంటే లైక్ ఆఫ్టర్ మొత్తం అయిపోయిన తర్వాత చేస్తే మనకు చాలా కాస్ట్ లైక్ ఇట్స్ వెరీ ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్ అనమాట. So this is because changing requirements often requires modifying the system design and also implementation followed by the retesting. అండ్ ఇప్పుడు తర్వాత ఇప్పుడు మొత్తం సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ అయినాక చేస్తే ఎందుకు ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్ అవుతుంది అంటే అప్పుడు మొత్తం స్టార్టింగ్ నుంచి అంతా చేంజ్ చేయాల్సి వస్తుంది. ఇప్పుడు మొత్తం వీటికి పైసలు ఖర్చు అవుతాయి అండ్ మొత్తం లైక్ స్టార్టింగ్ నుంచి అంతా చేసి లైక్ మొత్తం టైం వేస్ట్ అవుతుంది అండ్ ఆల్సో మళ్ళీ దాన్ని రీటెస్టింగ్ పంపించాలి. సో ఇదంతా పెద్ద ప్రాసెస్, టైం టేకింగ్ ప్రాసెస్, టైం వేస్ట్ మొత్తం అండ్ ఆల్సో ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్. సో ఏమున్నా కానీ డెవలప్ చేసేటప్పుడు చేసేయాలన్నమాట. So this is about requirements validation. So in this class we're going to discuss about the concept of requirements management. So the requirements which are predicted today will definitely change in the next instance when large systems are considered. So this usually happens because the software development team usually addresses only the big problem while implementing the requirement. సో ఇప్పుడు మనం ఈరోజు కొన్ని రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేస్తాం కదా, కానీ అవి మళ్ళీ రేపు కూడా మారొచ్చు. అంటే ఇప్పుడు లైక్ ఒకవేళ మనం ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ వర్కింగ్ విత్ లార్జ్ సిస్టమ్స్, అప్పుడు మనం ఈరోజు ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేసిన రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ రేపు కూడా మారొచ్చు కదా. సో దిస్ హ్యాపెన్స్, ఇది ఎప్పుడైతుందంటే సో దిస్ హ్యాపెన్స్ బికాస్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ టీమ్స్ యూజువల్లీ ఓన్లీ ట్యాకిల్ immediate problems when working on requirements, but it doesn't stop there. So once users install and start using the software, they often ask for more improvements. So following are some major issues. అంటే ఈ రీజన్స్ వల్ల మనకు ప్రాబ్లం వస్తుంది అనమాట. సో ఫస్ట్ వన్ ఈజ్ ఇంప్లిమెంటింగ్ ద సాఫ్ట్వేర్ involves potential changes. When you put the software into actions, lot of things in the organization might change. So business and technical aspects might shift and new hardware might come, and also users might want the software to connect with other systems, and the organization also might introduce new rules or policies. And the second point is the organization may impose restrictions on development. So sometimes it can happen that organization developing the software imposes certain limitations to align with budget and also financial requirements. So however, these restrictions may not be well received by the end users who work to the system. And the third one is the organization adopting the system may have a large workforce, each with unique visions and requirements. So the organization using the system might have many employees and also each with their own ideas and needs. So these are the three problems which may these are three problems. And so to deal with real life situations and to have a system capable of accommodating all of them, a new concept called requirements management is introduced. So in simple terms మనం ఏం చెప్తామంటే రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ లైక్ ఇట్ మెయిన్లీ ఎయిమ్స్ టు అంటే ఏమంటారు సాఫ్ట్వేర్ని కస్టమైజ్ చేయలాగా చూస్తుంది అనమాట. ఇట్ మెయిన్లీ ఎయిమ్స్ టు కస్టమైజ్ ద సాఫ్ట్వేర్ విత్ ద ability to understand and effectively meet those needs. So so for that we have some important consequences. In that, the first one is, first we look at all the separate requirements, then we analyze possible new requirements. First మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే first we look at all the separate requirements and then we analyze all possible new requirements that might come up based on these initial ones. Second one is we create a document called change proposals. So ఈ proposals ఏమైందంటే so these proposals are checked against the system to see if they work together. And the third point is we should start the requirements management phase right after finishing the requirement documentation. అంటే ఈ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఫేజ్ ఎప్పుడు స్టార్ట్ చేయాలంటే మనం రిక్వైర్మెంట్ డాక్యుమెంటేషన్ చేసిన నెక్స్ట్ అంటే అప్పుడే రైట్ ఆఫ్టర్ దాట్ వీ నీడ్ టు స్టార్ట్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఫేజ్. So this is all about requirements management, that's the concept of context models. So see, when we are working with context models, it has the two prime factors. The first one is the system boundary and the second one is vicinity or environment. So let's look at the context of the system we are developing, including how it reacts with its environment. So firstly, we establish a clear boundary between the system and its surroundings based on input from stakeholders and factors like cost. So then we examine how the system depends on the environment, and finally we create a basic architectural model. So this figure shows the high level representation of bank ATM system. So in this block diagram we use rectangles for the subsystems. See, these are the rectangles. We use these rectangles for the subsystems, and with their names inside, and lines to show how they're collaborating with each other. So but there's more to consider. This figure probably gives a board view of the system, and it doesn't tell other independent system it interacts with. And also we need to think about this external system, because they can exchange data with our system, affecting it significantly or directly connecting to it. So we need to add a process model to the architectural model, which we discussed earlier. And also this process model outlines all the activities supposed by the system. So this is all about context models, behavior model. So basically behavior models represents the overall behavior of the system. And దీంట్లో two types ఉంటాయి. The first one is data flow model and the second one is state machine model. Now let us discuss about data flow model in detail. So data flow model, it depicts processing of data at each stage of existing system. అంటే so actually basically data flow model ఏం చేస్తుంది అంటే it shows how data is processed at each stage of the system, and also it outlines the steps involved in data processing from an analytical viewpoint. And also ఇక్కడ మనకు కొన్ని నోటేషన్స్ ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. So this notation, this rectangle notation, is used to represent data stored, and this is rounded rectangle. ఇది rectangle కానీ edgesకి ఇలా రౌండ్ ఉంటుంది. So this is a rounded rectangle which depicts the function of processing available in the system, and this arrow, this represents the flow of data. Now so when we are working with data flow models, it involves some key points anamata. So the first key point is it shows how data is processed. So data flow models ఉంటాయి కదా, they will be showing how data is processed at each stage of system development. Next is moves to next stage, అంటే processed data will be moved to the next stage ఎందుకంటే for the further processing. Next is reflects real time functions. So it means each stage processing reflects real time functions in software development. And the fourth one is help analysts understand described scenarios. So data flow diagrams will be helping analysts to understand the described scenarios. If this simple, so these data flow models are very simple and also user friendly for the development. And the sixth is document software design. So data flow diagrams document the software design. So this is all about state machine models. In the previous video we have already discussed about data models. So state machine model is one type of model in behavior model. So state machine model, which is used to model the operation and behavior of the system. So basically like state machine model shows us how a system behaves in response to events. It may be internal or external. So these events can also lead to the system to move between different states. And also this model don't display how data flows the system, but state machine models are often used in modeling real-time systems which react to the stimuli from their environment. So this is the respected diagram related to the state machine model. So in this round rectangles are used to which represent the system states, and with brief action descriptions, and with the labeled arrows which depict the causing transition between states. So and also in this model, in the state machine model, the system is assumed to be in one state at a time, and when a stimuli happens it moves to a different state. So however, large system models may have many states requiring restructuring. One solution is using a superstate that combines multiple states, and the superstate is treated as one in a high level model but detailed separately when necessary. So this is all about state machine model. Thank you.